What is going on, you guys? Tutorial Tim here, and today I'm going to show you how to use Figmotion and kind of give you an understanding of how to utilize it and really give you kind of the basics of it for you guys to go from there. Yeah, so without any further ado, let's get started. The link's in the description to install the plugin, or if you're already in Figma, you can go to Browse All Plugins or select it from the popular category and install it from there. And this animation tool is pretty simple to use. I'm going to show you as much of it as I can. So without any further ado, let's get started. I'm going to start off with something basic. Yeah, I'm going to kind of give you a basic understanding of the plugin. So if you go to right click, go to Figmotion and click Open Figmotion. I'll give you a general understanding of the user interface. Currently we have nothing selected, so there's nothing showing up in this blank canvas in the main portion of this UI region right here. So if we go and select this frame and add a shape in, we'll have something to play around with. So we need to refresh that. So we need to update our layers, and notice that once we added an ellipse, an element that we can animate, it gave us a timeline to start animating. So now I'm going to go over some of the general buttons here and what they're capable of. So if you don't understand how to use this tool and want like more in-depth understanding on how to utilize Figmotion, click on this More Actions icon and select Knowledge Base, and that will take you directly to their documentation for this, and you'd be good to go snooping through that. And yeah, I'm going to give you an understanding of this layers panel now. We utilize the update layers panel, which populated our canvas once we had an element in our frame. And you can also export your animations as CSS or JSON. And you just click the button, save it to your desired location. Same for JSON. It's going to click cancel there. And also you can render these as MP4s, GIFs, and this WebM file format. Note though that your animation will be uploaded to the Figmotion render server and completely removed after 1 hour. So just acknowledge and agree with the fact that your animation is temporarily stored on the Figmotion server. So at the end we will convert our animation to a GIF and save that. I'll show you how to do that. And to play your animations, of course, you press this play button, or you can use a spacebar on your keyboard. So what I like to do when I'm animating is we have our starting position. I'm just going to change the color of this here to something slightly my favorite color, blue. And as you can see, we have our starting point. You know, if you guys have an understanding of After Effects, I'd say this is fairly simple to understand and utilize. Yeah, so I'm going to start with setting the X and Y axis in its current state and position, and the width as well. And actually, I'm going to change this to a square because we might want to utilize the rotation keyframes as well. So there we go, got that there. Set that rotation. Might as well set that fill color too. I'm going to update these layers now. We got the rectangle, set the X and Y, the width, opacity, and rotation. I'm going to move this timeline 100 to about 200 millimeters into the future. And I'm going to set some keyframes again, right there on the width as well, opacity and rotation. So with the width in this point in time, here on our modal, our little dialog for Figmotion, we can change the width and height, but in this case it's the width here, set to 112, and we can either make it bigger or smaller. I'm going to make it bigger, set it to 200 and click OK. As you can see, it updates at that point in time. And then the width, that was our width. So now I'm going to go back on our timeline, set a keyframe for the height, move here, and set a keyframe again for the height. And I'm going to have that height actually shrink quite a bit. set that to 64. You can also click this brush to sync the current height of your rectangle to that keyframe and its point in time. But I'm gonna change that to 64, hit OK, and it shrinks. So we can start to see our animation as it moves up from the keyframes we set on our X and Y axis, and our height and width increase and decrease. And I'm gonna add some rotation into that. So we already have like keyframes set for a rotation, and I'm gonna go in and select the rotation keyframe, and there is no rotation set, so I'm gonna set like what, 45 degrees for this current keyframe in this point in time at 202 milliseconds. Click OK, and as you can see, it's rotated 45 degrees. And yeah, and I'm gonna also mess with the opacity since we haven't adjusted that. Go to the latest keyframe, select the opacity. I assume 1 stands for 100%, so I'm gonna do 0.5. Hit, yep, that's exactly what 1 stands for. It was like 100%. 0.5, 50%. I'm gonna do 0.3 for 30%. And as you can see, the start of the keyframe here is set to 100%, and then goes to 0.3, 30% transparency over the duration of these 200 milliseconds as it's rotating and moving on the X and Y axis. And the width is shifting as well as the height. So I'm going to actually add a border radius and around the corners at 200 milliseconds. Add a keyframe there. And then that'll be set to 0. And then moving forward, I'm going to have another keyframe. But this keyframe is going to change to a border radius of 20. Should round out the corners really well, as you can see right there. Corners have been rounded out. And as we continue to animate, you see at the 200 millisecond point, the only change you made is the roundness. And you can remember, again, you can use a spacebar to play your animations. It's not working for me right now. Okay, there we go. And that's our animation so far. And then we can also mess with the fill here. So I'm going to add this. This keyframe is going to have the fill color, and as you can see, we have a keyframe editor here that we can utilize to mess with these values. So starting here, I want this to be the default color until this point, and then move the timeline a little bit more forward, add another keyframe, and then with this keyframe, I am going to adjust the color value to something completely different, like red. Hit OK, something completely different. And I'm going to change the opacity to starting at this keyframe for the opacity. I'm going to add that keyframe there, and then shift, whoops, the opacity to 1. Select, I'm going to delete everything there and hit 1, hit OK. Perfect. So now when we hit play, it shifts to red. So now we can also adjust the stroke width and color here. So the thing is, we don't really have a defined stroke width or stroke color. So that would probably be for like a shape that is outlined or has a stroke applied to it. So that is currently the motion we have added. So I'm going to show you now how to export this. Again, use export as CSS and give it to your developers, or export it as JSON to give to your developers. You can, and now we're gonna save this as a GIF, but I'm gonna resize my window because I haven't showed you guys how to do that. So I'm gonna do like a square, 500 by 500. Whoops, yeah, that's big. 500. Click resize. As you can see, that is our window. Do not like the size of the window, so I'm gonna change that back to 1024. Again, this is just a general overview of how to utilize the tool. I'm going to show you now how to render this, and I'm going to select GIF. When you click render, it's going to render out your animation and process it. And once it processes, it's going to open up your web browser. which I'm gonna let's see here. I'm gonna select my frame and render it this time. And then I'm going to click View Last Render. That's what I missed. Clicking View Last Render will pop up your web browser, and you can now see the GIF animation we made. It's hideous, I know, but it's just a tutorial. And then you can save this image as a GIF, test GIF, and you're good to go. So that is how you utilize the Figmotion plugin in Figma. If you have any other questions, please leave them in the comment section below. And I hope this video helped you, and I'll see you later.